De todo ello nos va a hablar, la verdad es un placer presentarles hoy aquí que nos acompañe Robert Nowak, Economic Affairs Officer, Transport Division, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. Please welcome Mr. Nowak. La aplicación menti.com sigue abierta durante todas las jornadas y luego el señor Nowak podrá contestar también, esperemos, a la mayor parte de sus preguntas.
Buenos días, señoras y señores. I will speak English as my Spanish is very, very poor. I will not take this risk. At the very beginning, I wish to thank the hosts and the sponsors for inviting me or United Nations Economic Commission for Europe to come here and share our views, or perhaps my views, on the issues to be discussed here today: road safety and technology. I will speak a little bit about Vision Zero, and then I will speak about the actual connection between technology and road safety. And I will share my personal opinions with you, and I hope that you will find them interesting. I will try to be a bit controversial here, just to allow you or facilitate you staying awake on this Monday morning. I very much enjoyed the panel just before me, and just in case I don't have the time to cover all the slides that I have on my presentations, but I wish to, at the very, very beginning, to answer the questions that Professor Montoro asked. So here you are, you have my answers in 1 minute, and then I will go with the long version, and hopefully you will find the answers in my presentation. So Professor Montoro asked, or said, there's too much talk about technology, not enough, or too much technology, not enough reflections on it. I fully agree with this. There's not enough discussion, public discussion, about the role of technology in our life, including inside our vehicles or along our roadside. The next question was, where are we going with this? Well, this is a very good question, and then the way I would answer it is that we don't really know. Technology and technical progress will proceed whether we like it or not. It can go left, it can go right, it can go up or down, it will go somewhere. It is up to all of us, the public at large, stakeholders, road users, manufacturers, governments, regulators, everyone, to actually react to this technology. And the outcome of where are we going, where it's going to go, it really depends on our actions vis-a-vis that technology which is coming. And it's coming, whether, as I said, whether we like it or not. The next question was, have we reached the natural limit of deaths? Well, this is an interesting question. If you look at the issue from the ethical perspective, okay, the answer is that there has to be 0 deaths coming on our roads. But I am a trained economist, so if I look at the issue here, I have to look at costs, I have to look at benefits. So perhaps from a kind of human perspective, the answer is no. We cannot accept any deaths on our roads, but from a kind of practical, economic perspective, we have to accept the fact that sometimes it's really impossible to get to the 0 point. Finally, final question was, we're seeing more technology, are we seeing better outcomes? Well, here it's a very interesting question that my answer would be to you is no. We see a lot of technology, but that technology has often very little to do with safety. It has a lot to do with comfort. And I'm speaking about in-vehicle technology that you see today. So the answer is no to this. There was also a number of questions here which are very, very interesting. So the question of training, liability, uncertainty, following or not instructions manuals, and the general uniformity of rules. Okay, these are very, very important issues, and I will try to cover them to the extent I can. And also, I'm happy to kind of take side of Senora Sonia, because it seems to me that she was facing the world of engineers. She was the only one speaking at the panel from the point of view of a user, of a road user or a driver. Okay, so I am on her side. I am not an engineer by training. I'm an economist by training, and I tend to believe that not everything that is technically possible is actually useful or helpful. So here we go. We will start, or I will start, with a little bit of a description here of what we do, and I'll put it in a context. So I work at the UNEC, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. We're based in Geneva, and what we do at the Transport Division, our main activity is we look after or we assist countries in managing 58 conventions in inland transport. And inland transport we define as road, rail, inland waterways, intermodal. So it's everything except aviation and the seagoing ships. So out of the 58 conventions, we also have some which deal with road safety, and I picked 8 here for you. There may be more, but I picked 8. So they deal with traffic rules, signs and signals. We have 2 vehicle regulations agreements and 1 periodic inspections agreement. We have an agreement on transport of dangerous goods, as well as an agreement dealing with driving times and rest periods for professional drivers. So if you look at Spain, so the question has Spain acceded to all of these agreements, the 58? And the answer is no. Spain is a contracting party to 26 of those 58. And if you look at the 8 dealing with road safety, the ones which I crossed, Spain is not a contracting party. So Spain is not a contracting party to the 68 conventions on road traffic and sign and signals, and also it's not a contracting party to the periodic inspection agreement of 97. Just to preempt the question, because I always, when I travel the world, I always do this type of slide. The question usually follows: why is Spain not a contracting party to all of them, and so on and so on? The answer is very simple, because it's a voluntary type of action. It's up to Spain or the Spanish government to decide whether they wish to take on these international obligations or not. Okay? So this is something. This is a question to the government of Spain. However, 26 out of 58, it is a very good result. So now let's talk about technology and traffic rules, and we do them at UNEC within the context of all the conventions on road safety that I mentioned. So basically, on technology, we will talk about 2 different groups. There's a group called WP1, or Global Forum for Road Safety, which is my group, or this is the group that I help. And there's another group dealing with vehicle regulations. It goes by acronym WP29, or World Forum for Harmonization of Vehicle Regulations. These 2 groups interact to the extent possible in terms of, and I guess the idea is, or the objective is, to make sure that whatever is decided here at WP29 in terms of new technology or a new technical product which is embedded into vehicle, that these rules are harmonized with traffic rules. And I will show you some examples in a moment. So let me start with my part of the equation here, which is in this case 1949 Convention on the Road Traffic and the 68 Convention on the Road Traffic. And using the example of the 68 Convention, let me show you what this convention is and how it's supposed to deal with the issues of technology. So the convention has major blocks. One block is drivers or road users. The next block is vehicles. When you put the vehicles and drivers or road users together, you come up with rules of the road. Okay? And ultimately, because conventions are international, what you want to make sure that these rules of the road are internationally recognized. Okay? So you have a concept which we call admission to international traffic, but basically, if, not in this country because it's a wrong example, but if in France you get a driving permit and you are taught certain rules of the road, okay? With your driving permit you can drive all the way to Russia, across as many countries as there are: Germany, Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. And the idea here is that you have uniformity of rules. So this is the basic concept or the basic structure of the 1968 Convention on Road Traffic. What happened was that the convention was developed in the 60s. So 50 years ago, there was a certain technology, so you had motor vehicles, you had drivers, and they are very much apart. But in the last 50 years, that has been changing. So what you have seen is that the vehicles have become more technologically savvy, so in some sense, they're capable now of doing or performing functions which used to be done by the drivers. So you see this overlap there coming over time. So when you look at this three spheres, there's driver and vehicle and the overlap between them. Okay? On the left-hand side, you can call it the traditional driver, conventional driver. So this is the old-fashioned, the 1968 motor vehicle with the driver. Then on the other extreme, you have this driverless or fully automated situation. That you have a vehicle that you press the button and the vehicle takes you from A to B without any inputs. And in between, you have this overlap, okay, which many people, as well as you do, they call it advanced driving assistance systems. Okay, so these vary. They may be very complex. They may be very, very simple. So I will speak about this a bit more about the overlap. On the other side, so this is the vehicle regulations here. Here you have the world of engineers. These are the people who invent new things and put them in your vehicle. And the instrument that they use is the 1958 Agreement on Vehicle Regulations, and which contains almost 150 regulations. And just to give you an example, I just copied Regulation 79 dealing with steering. Okay, so here, so you can see how it looks. Regulation 1979. And here you have some text copied on the remote RCP or remote control parking. And this is a Regulation 79 dealing with the issue of remote control parking. So here it tells you what I highlighted. It tells you that you have to, let's say you have a telephone or a key or whatever remote control, to park your car remotely, you have to be continually pressing on something. Well, that's what it says there. Then you have to be within the distance of 6 meters. If you move farther away, then the system stops. And then at the very, very top, it tells you this kind of ADS type of scenario that while you are pressing everything, you are not actually controlling the car. It's the system inside the vehicle that's actually doing all the moving. So this is an example of the vehicle regulation. So here I go. When we have this, what we do at the UNEC, the moment we get some kind of idea that the new regulation is being introduced, and there's a risk that this regulation may actually contradict the existing traffic rule, we have to look at this overlap situation in the middle and see whether we actually need to introduce a new traffic rule to accommodate something, for example, like remote control parking. So this is basically what we do in Geneva at UNEC in terms of technology. So the next question is the Vision Zero here. So I've been asked to give you a little bit of talk about Vision Zero. So Vision Zero, the question is, what does it mean? What do we mean by Vision Zero? So I just Googled Vision Zero, and I got the first thing I got was the European Commission, the Vision Zero of moving close to zero fatalities by 2050. The next thing that popped up was the mayor of London, who has also his own Vision Zero in the center of London. And then finally, just to give you an example, it's a random example. It's a private sector. It's a company that deals with technological products as well as tires, and they also have a zero vision. So you can see here that there's a lot of the Vision Zeros here. So in order for me to be consistent and make sense and provide you with some kind of a logical story for the next 10 minutes, I picked the true Vision Zero, the original one, which is the Vision Zero as it was developed in Sweden in 1997. So here you have the Vision Zero, it's a Swedish one, and it says, the Vision Zero is that eventually no one will be killed or seriously injured within the road transport system. So this is a clear statement by the government saying that Swedish government says in some future time, no one will die in the road system, or at least this is our goal. And then the second caveat is that it is ethical imperative that it can never be ethically acceptable that people are killed or seriously injured. Okay? This is a very, very strong type of vision, and this is something that I will use to walk you through Swedish Vision Zero. But I will not. Don't think of this of my talk as evaluation of the Vision Zero in Sweden. I'm just using it as an example, and I'll show you why is it difficult to actually reach Vision Zero, whether you define it this way or some other way. So the first issue here is that when you actually speak to the Swedish officials, they tell you that Vision Zero is not only about ethics and the actual zero casualties, okay, but it's about other dimensions. Okay, so here you have an example here that talks about 5 dimensions, and they are all listed here. So it's not as simple as Vision Zero and ethics. Here you go. Sweden is a very specific country because it has a very important producer of vehicles, which is Volvo. It's no longer owned by the Swedes. It's based in Sweden now. However, the Volvo has been recognized for many, many years as a road safety champion. And here you go. Volvo doesn't have a Vision Zero, they have a Vision 2020, but basically they say the same thing, that our vision is that by 2020, no one should be killed or seriously injured in our cars, in one of our cars. And actually, one of the deputy directors says it's a religion. Okay, so the Swedes take the Vision Zero very, very seriously, whether you look at the government actions or whether you look at the manufacturers who are based in Sweden. So the question now is Vision Zero, is it a vision or is it a reality? Okay. So what I will do is I just picked 5 elements from the Swedish Vision Zero, and I will go very quickly through them. So first is ethics-based. Okay. Well, as I told you before, it is, on the one hand, it's a very important statement to say for a politician. Okay? In my country, no one will die. I will never find it acceptable that even one person dies on our roads. It's a very powerful statement. But at the same time, if you look at economics of this, okay, the first thing you learn in economics is to think about costs and benefits. And once you know something about costs and benefits, they tell you something about the concept marginal cost and marginal benefit. You will not continue doing something. You will only continue doing something until you reach the point when the marginal cost of you doing something, okay, is equal to the marginal benefit. And the point of MC equals MB may not be at 0 road deaths. Okay, and I'll show you some examples which are there. And in fact, I looked up some press clippings on Sweden, and in fact, you can see here that Sweden actually estimates a value of human life. So in other words, while the government actually says that it's ethically unacceptable to have even 1 death on the road, okay, internally they use a concept of, they actually put the value on a human life. Okay? So here you have like a mixture of ethics and economics, and this is a very, very controversial issue, putting a value on a human life. This is something that is very, very controversial. But for government actions, including Sweden, it is also necessary. So the second element of Sweden is, or the second tenet of the Swedish Vision Zero is that it's a recognition that everyone makes errors. Okay, some people make errors on purpose. Okay, these are the crazy drivers who go 200 kilometers per hour through school zones. Okay, and there are people who do them because there's a chain of events, and the accident is a result. And what's interesting is that the Swedish government says that in case you find this interesting, is that intentional errors are 30%, unintentional ones are 70%. I don't know how they calculate this, but this is the number that they use. So in other words, the crazy drivers who do things on purpose is 30%, 70% of accidents are unintended. They're accidents, in other words. So what can we say about this tenet, this foundation of the Vision Zero? Well, in some countries, this type of idea is very much rejected, because the inherent risk that if you are doing something which is completely crazy, and for example, you die while doing this, it's part of this equation, it's part of this, this idea that there is a punishment if you don't follow the rules. Okay? And in this case, in the Swedish case, there's a recognition that it doesn't really matter whether you follow the rules or not. We are there to help you, which is different than saying if you drive 200 kilometers per hour and you end up off the road on top of the tree, and this is your punishment, nobody will say this, but inherently every one of us understands this. So there's a certain clash of cultures there in some countries. So this is what I'm saying is this is not directly replicable in all the cultures, all the countries. The third bullet is that road safety is responsibility of everyone, and it kind of follows from the previous bullet. Yeah? So here the idea is that if you are a driver and you crash into a tree, or you actually crash into somebody's house and you damage it, it used to be that it's your fault. You didn't follow the rules, therefore you're punished. Okay? But in Sweden they look at things differently. They say, well, it is not only your fault because you did something completely wrong, that you damaged somebody's house. It is also our fault because our fault as the government, or our fault as manufacturers, because we did not anticipate the fact that you'd be doing this. Okay? So here you have the idea of, I don't know, barriers, cars with smaller engines, or better vehicles, and so on and so on. So this is what is meant by road safety is everybody's responsibility. You are likely to make a mistake, but we are there to help you, either as vehicle manufacturers or as infrastructure constructors and engineers. Again, this is something which is not well taken everywhere in the world. So here, what is interesting about Sweden is the fact that the enforcement in Sweden is not really something which they consider to be a priority. Again, because the philosophy is that the vehicles are safe, the roads are safe. Road safety is everybody's responsibility, so we don't actually have to employ police officers to check on you whether you follow